What's going on, guys? Suche and Joku, Sneaker Principal, and welcome to this episode of the Sneaker Principal podcast. It is Monday, I believe this is the 6th, and it's been a long day. It's a little after 6 o'clock, so I'm ready to head out. Kids had a basketball game today. They won, and they won decisively. It's very interesting when people doubt you, as they did my students, and not even the other teams, because this is our first time having organized basketball, like actual team uniforms. We're part of a schedule, competing with other schools. We have away games, home games. And the thing that's interesting is that I remember the first time I said we have to have sports, and that was last year. And there was so much pushback on this campus, and I get it, because it's limited space and there's a need to maintain what you have and not share, because sharing means that you lose out on valuable time, gym time, and practice time for your team. So I understood that, but I also understand that that it's important for all children to get the opportunity to flex their abilities across the multiple modes of experiences, whether it's academic, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, whether it's mental, like intellectual, whatever it is. And sports is something that gives kids, especially kids who otherwise may seem to be a little bit more hyper, a space to just hone in and focus and concentrate, because that concentration in sports will eventually pour its way into other spaces in their lives. And to see these young men, first year as a team, go from losing. I mean, I think they won one game and they lost like the next couple of games, and it was like, okay, there's a lot of work to be done. But today they played as a team. They talked to each other. They showed each other love. They showed respect. They encouraged each other, and I was just like, this is amazing. And the whole entire time, I just locked away my camera. I had the R6 Mark II with I think it was a 100 to 500 lens on there. And I'm taking pictures. I'm learning how to do sports photography so I can teach the kids how to do it. A couple of kids were like, yo, mister, can I take pictures? And I'm like, it's a little bit more complicated than just taking pictures, because you now have to understand and make sense of the aperture in the space. The shutter speed is not a problem. I kept it about 250, and it worked pretty well. Then the burst modes and trying to make sure that I was able to catch as much motion as possible without the blurs, sharp images. The high school basketball courts, unless you are like a basketball factory, like my high school in California, you're having basic gym lights, so everything is yellow. So you have to mess with the white balance, and then make sure you mess with that. The ISO is high enough, and ISO is what digitally allows you to to make something brighter apart from exposure in your pictures. So I had to push that up, to be able to make it bright enough to get good pictures. But the problem now, you're dealing with a lot of grain, because you get a lot of noise in the images. So I'm asking myself, how do I explain this to my students? But I had to tell them, like, listen, I'm perfecting this. I can hand it off to you, because eventually I want to give it to you. So I'm out there walking around the court, taking pictures. And at one point, I'm sitting on the floor on the opposite end of the court where the teams are seated. I'm on the floor taking pictures, and I'm getting some really good pictures, because the other thing too, these pictures are going to help for the yearbook, and also samples for me to show kids, my students in photography, this is what this could look like if you understand your aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Some of you are listening to this right now, you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's photography talk. And I'm done. I'm actually about to walk to my students and say, hey, who wants to take a try? I'm going to give you a quick tutorial and let you go ham. But on Thursdays, we have our club, so I was going to meet with them and actually show them how to do it. And before I even made it across there, a gentleman walks up to me and says, hey, my name is so-and-so, and I got to tell you, I just found out you're the principal. I've never seen a principal this engaged in your school with their students. Like, you were on the floor over there taking pictures. And I was like, yeah, this is what I do. And he was like, man, it's good to see a young man like you. I was like, yeah, but I'm not as young as you think I am. He said, how old are you? You're 30. I was like, nope, I am almost 50. He was like, nah, you're not 50. I'm like, bro, I'm 48. This year is going to be my 49th year in this planet. My last year in my 40s. And we got into this whole conversation about, first of all, why you look so young. Number two, what is it you eat? Then I showed him a picture of my mother. He was like, what the hell does she eat? But she looks younger than you. She's 70. And we're having these conversations. And we started talking about my journey into taking over the school. And he was like, I've been to many schools. I've never walked into a school where I got this kind of energy from a principal. But I'm like, it's just my title. It's not who I am. What you see is who I am. And that's how I present, regardless of title. Because my job is to put the school in the best place possible to be successful. And the only way I can do that is to show up as myself, fully as myself. So we had a deep conversation about that. And he said to me, how come more principals are not like you? I'm like, there's a lot of principals that are like me. And I told him, I like to think that all principals are like me. The question, are they allowed to be themselves? And that's all I'm doing is being myself. You know, truly being myself and understanding what needs to happen here to make sure that I've created a space for kids to grow. And then I told him, you know, I'm a turnaround principal. He was like, and I don't know why people say this every time they hear I'm a turnaround principal. So you don't stay long then. That means he's like, yeah, that's what they do. They just yank you and put you somewhere else. I'm like, nah, I've never been yanked out of the school and put somewhere else. I've done my work, I've done my job. And when it's time for me to go, it's time for me to go. He's like, but what happens when you leave? And I said, my team takes over. And he looked at me, he's like, what? I'm like, because my responsibility is not only to turn the school around and build into something sustainable. It's also about making sure that the right people are there so that when it's time for me to take on the next challenge, they step in and continue the legacy. You know, because it's not about me, it's not about them, it's about the school. I go to other communities and their schools are staples of the community. Their school is a cornerstone of the community. And when I mean others, I'm talking about typically non-Black communities. Their schools are a staple of their community. You go to Black and brown communities, and the principal is a staple of the community. The teacher is a staple of the community. I'm like, no, it shouldn't be that. It should be the institution. The principal could be a shining jewel in the institution. That amazing teacher could be a shining jewel in that institution, but I don't think it should ever be the individual as the cornerstone of the community. Because what happens when the individual is not there anymore? It falls apart, because then it turns into no one could ever replace so-and-so. But you never hear no school can replace this school, because the school doesn't go anywhere, it's right there. So we had that conversation and made me rethink, because it wasn't until we started talking, I started thinking about that. I was like, you know, that is crazy. Because again, for me, I see my job as making the school so amazing that it's going to stand strong for the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, because it's going to be such a strong culture that those who come behind it will maintain that culture, so that the school is an institution that the community says, yes, I can set my watch to that school. I no guarantee what that school produces. And that's not the case most of the time in our community. The vast majority of the time, the school is just a place that hopefully is doing right by the kids. That hopefully has done right by the adults who attended that school. And that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make sure that after my work is done, that MS 224, hopefully junior high school 224, exploration and discovery, is an institution that is so depended on, so reliable, so concrete, the community knows that school is that school that does this. That there's a line outside the door to make sure that the right kid comes to the school to get what the school provides. And every school should be like that. So that was a conversation I had this evening. right downstairs not too long ago, and it's still buzzing in my head, because now I'm asking myself, why aren't more schools or more school leaders focused on making your school the cornerstone of their community? Not just raising test scores, not just reducing behavioral issues. Because when you make that your focus, and guess what? That is the focus, and that's all you talk about. At this school, we brought down the suspensions. At this school, we've increased test scores. At this school, we've increased attendance. But rather than saying, this school serves the community, this school produces, citizens that uplift the community. This school is the hub, this meeting place, the intersection of greatness in this community. Because if we make it about that, then guess what? Test scores don't matter. Attendance doesn't matter. Behavioral issues don't matter, because they don't matter because that's not the focus anymore. But it doesn't have to be the focus, because kids are in school every day. Behavioral issues is at a minimum, but they're so engaged. Test scores, what are you talking about test scores? If the kids are here every single day, they're engaged and they're happy, guess what happens as a result? The scores are high. And we don't talk about, my God, what if the scores are, no. Because the kids are happy, the teachers are happy, the parents are happy, the community is grateful because this school, that institution serves us and serves us well. So call to action. First of all, question. What is the focus of your leadership as a principal? What is the focus in your leadership as an aspiring leader, or as a teacher leader, or as a teacher, or as a parent? What is the focus when it comes to the school that you serve, that you lead in, or your child attends? Are you only worried about test scores? Are you only worried about attendance? Are you only worried about, behavioral issues? Or are you asking the question, how do we make our school great? How do we make our school that place that everyone just says, man, I love my school. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for my school and everything it did for me. And not just academics, but a full raising of a child. The full pouring in to that young person. So what is your focus? All right, y'all. Uche and Joko, Sneaker Principal. I got to get home. Till next time, be well.